Welcome to another episode of Brand Chops, the podcast that teaches small businesses how to brand smarter, not harder. My name is Zack Lemear, and today we're talking about brand promises, what they are, why most businesses mess them up, and how you can create a promise that's powerful, believable, and most importantly, kept. You know what really frustrates me as a customer? When a business makes a big promise but then completely drops the ball. Maybe you ordered something online that guaranteed 2 day shipping. You paid extra for that speed, and then 3 days later, you're still checking your porch and wondering if it's ever going to show up. That gap between the promise and the actual experience, that's where brands lose trust. And once the trust is gone, it's almost impossible to get it back. And I've said this many times on this podcast. Branding is not about your logo. It's not about your name. It's not about the colors on your sign. It's not about the services that you sell or the products that you sell. It's not about anything except for the promises that you keep. You have to understand what promise you're making every day before you can really understand what promise you're keeping. So, what I mean by that is when you make a brand promise, it could be as simple as 1 day shipping. It could be as simple as hassle-free returns. It could be as simple as 24/7 service. Whatever your brand promise is, the one thing that really makes you stand out and the one thing people are looking for and they count on, you got to learn and you got to really dive deep. What is it that your customers believe is your promise? When you really figure that out is really when the secret sauce becomes the gumbo that makes your business strong. I've also said this a lot. Branding is mostly just about the promises that you keep. And every day that you're working and every day that you provide a service or you fulfill a product or you fulfill an order for a customer, there's a promise, a hidden promise, whether that's again, hassle-free returns, an easy experience on your website, or for Apple, for example, it just works. Most people don't have to figure out how to use an Apple product. It just works. It's so intuitive. And even though it gets more and more technically advanced year over year, they never break their promise. It's sleek, it's stylish, it's a status symbol, and it just works. Imagine if you had your Apple iPhone or your MacBook Pro or your iPad or whatever you're using for an Apple product, and all of a sudden it just became as clunky as the first time you ever used a Windows computer. You'd start to lose trust in that brand because the promise is not kept. And you've got to know what promise you keep. They're not promising they're going to sell you computers or phones. They're not promising that you're going to enjoy all the shows on Apple Plus TV or whatever. They promise that you'll have a sleek, stylish status symbol that just works. It's super easy. It's elegant. It's refined. It's polished. And that's the promise that they keep. And that's why they're a $1 trillion company, because they've been able to keep that promise no matter how many people have been at the helm, no matter how many times the business has had to shift or evolve, or whatever product they invented or whatever marketplace they've inserted themselves in, they've always kept that promise. So you've got to be sure of what promise you're making, because it's not necessarily what you're selling and it's not necessarily obvious. So you've got to really ask questions, think about it. Think about a brand that you love. Think about a brand that you interact with all the time. What is the promise that they're making to you, and what would happen to that relationship between you and that brand and your loyalty to that brand if they stop keeping their promise? You'd probably find another business to go to, another product to buy, because in the world that we live in today, there's so many options and there's so many reasons that we can just leave. We've got so much buyer power in this market, in any market, whether you're buying a mattress, a computer, a car, can of soda, a water bottle, there's a billion products out there. And it only gets worse with Amazon, because now you've got companies from overseas creating funny brands with weird names, like gobbledygook names that you'll buy and it'll be, a pan or a hat or a shoe or whatever. And they're just flooding the market with more choice. And the more choice you have, the more buyer power you have, and the more you've got to be sure about your promise, and the more you've got to make sure you're keeping that promise no matter what. No matter what, you have to keep that promise. So here's the problem. Too many businesses use their brand promise like a wish list instead of a commitment. I've seen companies slap on promises like fast, affordable, and the highest quality, Sounds great on paper, but let's get real for a second. You can't truly deliver all three at the same time. If you try, you set yourself up for failure. You're building an expectation that can't be met. And when that failure happens, it's costly. According to a PwC study, 32% of customers will walk away from a brand they love after just one bad experience. 32%. That means if you break your promise even once, you risk losing a third of your loyal customer base. That is why it's so important to know what your promise is and make sure everybody on your team, whether it's a team of 2 or a team of 2,000, is on board with keeping that promise at every step of the buyer's journey. Think about the restaurant that promises food in 5 minutes, but then takes 20. Or the contractor who promises always on budget, always on time, but misses the deadline. Customers don't just remember the failure, they tell their friends. They leave reviews, and suddenly your brand promise becomes a brand liability. Because again, not only do we have so much buyer power, but we've never ever in the history of time had so much power to communicate to the world for free our distrust, our dislike, our disgust of a company or a brand or an experience. Or on the flip side, our delight, our love, our affinity for a brand because they continuously build their promise. This is why I spend $3,000 on a laptop for a Mac when I can buy one for $500, $600 that's a PC. Because I want it to be elegant. I want it to be seamless. I want it to connect to everything else in my world. And I don't want to have to think too much about it. And that's the promise they've kept year over year over year, which is why they keep getting my money. So let's clear this up a second. A brand promise is not just a tagline. It's not a marketing slogan. Your brand promise is the core commitment you're making to every single customer, every single time. And here's the key. It has to come from something you already do well, not something you hope to do, not something you occasionally manage to pull off. It should be the one thing your business can reliably deliver no matter what. And again, keep it simple. Start small, but never, ever break that promise. Domino's Pizza is one of my favorite examples here. For years, they promised 30 minutes or less or it's free. That was bold, but guess what? It was also risky. Delivery drivers were speeding, accidents happened, and the lawsuits piled up. Eventually, Domino's dropped that promise because it wasn't sustainable. Instead, they shifted to a simpler promise. Hot, delicious pizza delivered reliably. That's achievable. It aligns well with what they are built to do, and it still resonates with customers without putting the company at risk. And you'll see this in all kinds of things that they do. They were one of the first people to integrate into the TiVo way back in the day, where you could actually order a pizza through the TiVo, but then it would show you the steps of where your pizza was in the process. So you were constantly getting a communication from them. This is your pizza's on the board. It's in the oven. It's coming out of the oven. It's on its way. So even though they couldn't promise any longer safely and reliably that you could get a pizza in 30 minutes or less, they could still keep the experience of ordering a pizza through them and give you other means of keeping track of it. So it seems fast, right? So the perception changes, but the perception is still maintained because they had this mechanism through the TiVo, or now they do it through the website itself or an app on your phone. But either way, you have a way to track every step of the process. That's a way that they stand out. And that's the difference between marketing slogan and a true brand promise. So how do you make sure your promise is one you can actually keep? That's a big question. Here's a step-by-step framework I use with clients. So step 1, identify what customers consistently praise you for. Go back through reviews, testimonials, even casual feedback. Do customers always mention your speed or your friendliness or the way you solve a problem they didn't even know they had? That's a clue to your real strength. Step 2, anchor your promise around that. Don't try to be everything to everyone. Focus on the one thing that makes you stand out. If customers always say you're dependable, your promise should highlight reliability. If they love your creativity, lean into that. Step 3, you've got to stress test it. Ask yourself, can I deliver this promise 99% of the time? If the answer is no, it's not your promise. The stress test keeps you from overreaching. Step 4, bake it into every touch point. A touch point is every time a customer or a lead interacts with your brand, whether that's your website, a sign on the highway, the sign on your car, the wrap on your truck, the business card, your handshake, your pitch, your casual conversation in an elevator, whatever it is, however they're interacting with your brand, bake it into every touch point. Your promise shouldn't just live on your website header. It should show up in the way your team answers the phone, in your proposals, in the way you follow up with clients. Every interaction is either proving or disproving that promise. This is why it's so important to know what that promise is, truly understand what that promise is, and do everything in your power to keep it. So let's make this practical. Here are 5 things you can do today to tighten up your brand promise. 1, write down your current brand promise or tagline. Look at it with fresh eyes. Does it sound like hype? Does it sound generic? Or does it sound like a real commitment? And try to avoid things like, we do it right the first time, or integrity and trust. That's table stakes, man. That's the bare minimum. If we can't trust you and you don't have integrity, why are we even having a conversation? If you can't do it right the first time, that's not special. I'm paying you a premium. I'm hiring you to solve a problem of mine. If you can't do it right the first time, that doesn't belong on the sign. That's not a brand promise. That should just be the way it is. Number 2, audit your last 5 customer interactions. Did you actually deliver on that promise? If not, that's a real red flag. We have a client that if you do not give him a 5-star review at the end, he'll give you a certain amount off of your final bill, because his promise is that you're going to get a 5-star experience every time. And if there's some reason you didn't get it, then you're going to get money back, which even if you didn't give him 5 stars, the getting the money back, because they don't really advertise this is just how they operate, that makes it a 5-star experience. So they're keeping their brand promise, even if your perception was that it wasn't a 5-star. So there's many, many, many ways that you can do this, and it's unique to every business. Number 3, ask 5 of your most loyal customers what they think you're known for. Compare their answers to your promise. If they don't line up, your brand is saying one thing and doing another, and that is breaking a promise. And if you say that you're going to keep a promise 10 times out of 10, and 5 times out of 10 you break the promise, the only promise you've ever kept is that you're a promise breaker, because that's the only thing that they can rely on, that they can't rely on you. So you've got to be ultra careful. Number 4, refine your promise into one clear, specific statement. It should be short enough to remember and strong enough to believe. Like apples, it just works. This is a complicated machine, a laptop, a phone. It's got more technology in these phones today than half of the satellites in space that we use to beam the signals back and forth. And they've encapsulated the essence of their promise. It just works. Number 5, now that you've got a strong, refined promise, a clear, specific statement, put it everywhere. Update your website, your proposals, your invoice template, your email signature. Train your team to speak it, live it, and eat it and breathe it. It's got to be everywhere. You've got to represent this promise, and you've got to keep it. So if you want to go deeper, here are a couple of resources I recommend. HubSpot has a great worksheet on crafting a brand promise. You can find it by searching HubSpot Brand Promise Worksheet. Just Google that, and you'll be able to find a great worksheet to get started. And if you want inspiration, check out Forbes' article on Domino's brand turnaround. It's a great case study on how adjusting a promise can reshape a brand, because you could have made a promise during a course of a long period of business, and lots of things change. COVID changed a lot of promises, right? People might not have been able to deliver. They couldn't have had a storefront. The experience changed. It had to be curbside pickup. And there's a lot of things. Then the promise maybe changed from super fast delivery to super safe delivery, where we guarantee everybody's wearing a specific type of mask and gloves before we even do anything and bring it to your car, or whatever it might be. But promises can change. As long as you're consistent and it has something to do with the market shift, promises can change. So here's the bottom line. Your brand promise is only as strong as your ability to keep it. Overpromising might win you an attention in the short term, but under-delivering will cost you customers, money, and reputation in the long run. So instead of trying to be everything, focus on being the best at one thing. Promise it, deliver it, and let your customers do the bragging for you. There is nothing more powerful than social proof and testimony from someone who's used your product. That's why reviews and ratings are so powerful. That's why when we're shopping on Amazon, we're looking at the reviews. How many reviews do they have? How many bad reviews do they have? How many reviews total? And what's the total score? I mean, it happens every single day. You might not even know you're doing it. But social proof is very, very important. When you're going to look for a new vendor or something, usually go for friends and family. Hey, who do you know? Have you ever used XYZ? What do you think? You want other people's testimony to get that social proof so you can qualify that this is a good choice for you. So that's how you build a brand promise that doesn't break. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe and send us an email. Let us know any questions you might have, and we might feature it on a future episode. But thanks for tuning into Brand Chops, where we chop up brands to see what they're made of. We'll see you next time. Brand Chops is brought to you by the fine people at Pivot Creative. Pivot Creative is a full-service branding and marketing agency that partners with businesses to build brands that connect so that every dollar you spend is an investment and not an expense. If you need some branding or marketing guidance, a website, a new brand, or want to learn more about one of the topics we cover on the show, please reach out to us at pivotcreative.com. If you know someone that would benefit from learning more from one of our shows, please share the episode. Visit brand-chops.com. And as always, like and subscribe if you find this content to be helpful. See you next time on Brand Chops, where we chop up brands to see what they're made of.